Hi, having to do this video the night before because I've got an early start tomorrow, which will be the 10th. So this is as things stand. I'm not really doing any trading this evening. As you can see, Wolverhampton Wanderers have tightened the ship. We saw in the research 3 penalties, 2 own goals, part of the 8 goals conceded. They've really tightened things up. But I did hear of a 2-0 for the Hammers. That would be a possible angle in. No, it looks like that was disallowed. That would have been an angle in, possibly with the hope that Wolves would find their 2-goal scoring that they've had recently. Elsewhere, well, Monza did deserve the lead here to make it 2-1. You can see 20 shots off target, 9 corners, but looks like they've been mugged by Udinese. What a pity there. So quietish night, really. Peterborough, they were odds-on favourite at home last match and lost. Very poor indeed. So not much going on. Let's have a look at what is it going to be, a Champions League night. Champions League is difficult to give you a pre-match angle on because these are all what I would style derby-style matches. Clear advantage, though, for Liverpool, who hadn't had a match at the weekend. So that is a real boon for Liverpool against Girona, who are nowhere near as solid as they were last season. So they're going to be green as well, Girona, in the Champions League. I think Arnie pie in the sky slot is going to be okay with that rest as well. Celtic have been surprising in Europe. So I wouldn't be discounting them against DZ. But 2.25 just tells you it's a little lukewarm. Atalanta and Real Madrid do due deference to Atalanta that Real Madrid are only 2.45 outsiders. They have had a bit of a torrid time. And if you're going to be focusing purely on the Champions League, I would recommend uk.soccerway.com. We don't. The problem with this research that I'm doing, using the sources I do, is that they're looking at recent matches in all competitions, which isn't accurate because the Croatian HNL1 league is completely different to a Champions League night. So uk.soccerway.com will give you an idea of Champions League performance. Home, they've got a couple of goals in them. That was an interesting performance against Monaco, who are pretty sharp themselves, but they also have a strong conceding pattern as well. Looking at Celtic in the Champions League, away from home, well, that's not good reading, is it? But there's only 2 matches in 2024, but it's not going well. That said, you see Atalanta against Real Madrid. That's quite a good performance for Celtic because this lot are pretty solid, but woeful stuff there. So these are difficult matches to unpack. Pre-match in-play stats will be vital. Let's have a look at Atalanta Real Madrid, for example. This one, the market can't split. Again, a focus primarily on Champions League form rather than form overall. And you can see a general pattern of clean sheets for Atalanta. 1, 2, 3, 4 clean sheets, conceding one against the Young Boys, which I suggest would be a consolation goal. No, it was a competitive equaliser, and then they went to town. So watch out, Real Madrid. Real Madrid, the wheels are falling off a little in the Champions League. Lost to Lille, lost to AC Milan, lost to Liverpool. They must start doing something. Trouble scoring as well. 0, 5, 1, 0. So that's why usual side who love the Champions League are nowhere near being strong favourite. Bayer Leverkusen Inter Milan, fascinating match, but again, how on earth do we unpack these two? Inter Milan are adept enough as an Italian unit to keep Bayer Leverkusen quiet. Bayer Leverkusen, as we know, normally goal machines. Brest, newcomers to the Champions League against PSV Eindhoven. Again, that's a tough nut to crack. Club Brugge, Sporting Lisbon, 2.3 the favourite. New manager for Sporting Lisbon. Might see the wheels fall off. They lost, I think, to Moreirense recently. So that's question mark. Leipzig as well. They've absolutely fallen apart domestically. And Aston Villa are coming off the back of 2 consecutive wins now after having a woeful Manchester City-like meltdown, all down to this competition. But they're in far better order overall, Aston Villa. 2 consecutive wins, as I say. But look at the Champions League for Leipzig. Something is up at Leipzig. If Celtic are scoring 3 goals against you, no offence to Celtic, but the SPL is hardly strong, is it? Then you're in a spot of bother. They are at home. They've got home advantage, but that doesn't seem to help. A couple of narrow 0-1 defeats to Real Madrid and Liverpool. That might be the case today, with Aston Villa winning 1-0 at the weekend. And a 0-0 against not another Italian, Leipzig, a German, of course. A 0-0 and a 1-0. Very tight. We know that Dick Emery is a very adept manager, at least with the Europa League. So I think worst case scenario for Aston Villa might be a 1-0 defeat. We will see. Certainly Leipzig, look at this. Very, very gettable indeed. But this came out of nowhere. This was a DBF Pokal though. So don't take that to heart. But conceding 5 goals to Wolfsburg, and then Hoffenheim somewhere. I thought they capitulated against Hoffenheim, but maybe I'm getting that mixed up with another side. So that is a spot of bother. Oh, that's at home. Sorry, that's why. Overall, you've got that Hoffenheim 4-goal concession, 5 goals against the Wolf. DBF Pokal, totally ignore that. Holstein Kiel, well, they're meant to be beating Holstein Kiel. So Leipzig, for me, do look vulnerable on recent form. Might be lacking a little bit of confidence. Red Bull Salzburg, well, they've been failing to score in the Bundesliga, which is literally unheard of. It's like, 1-1. I would have looked, if that was a 2-0, I would have looked at taking on West Ham. Wolves, far more adept today, weren't they? I'm not sure I would have taken that on. But we can just quiet Dr. Stephen Hawking while we're carrying on with this. Salzburg have had trouble scoring domestically. Out of nowhere, failing to score in 3 consecutive Bundesliga matches. Again, the meltdown, the Champions League meltdown that Man City have suffered, that Aston Villa have suffered, Salzburg is just unheard of. Let's go to the Bundesliga. There was a whole raft of fail to score in the Bundesliga. It's just totally unheard of. All down to this newfangled Champions League, and you can see they're struggling as well. Paris Saint-Germain likely to be filling their boots if you look at Bayer Leverkusen and even Dinamo Zagreb. The win against Feyenoord, well, the Dutch Eredivisie slightly lower. Was a red card involved? Maybe, in the 80th minute. That didn't necessarily have a huge impact on the match. Looking at Paris Saint-Germain, 0-0 against Auxerre. Again, one of your pre-Champions League wobbles. They absolutely dominated this match from start to finish. The in-play stats were impeccable. The only thing missing was the goal. And they're going through a run of failing to score against Bayern Munich, scoring only 1 against Nantes, and then none against Auxerre. They're going to have to do a little bit better, but they might get away with it. As I say, Red Bull Salzburg struggling to even score in the Bundesliga. So they're likely to be very, very vulnerable today. Shakhtar Donetsk against Bayern Munich. This should be as obvious as that suggests. Again, like we were using soccerstats.com for league football, uk.soccerway.com for different competitions. You can filter by friendlies, filter by the cup, filter by Champions League, as we're doing in this particular instance. Both teams to score pattern in the last 2 for Shakhtar Donetsk, but they are very vulnerable for me. It's the Ukrainian side. Bayern Munich, though, uncharacteristically poor in the Champions League. Not scored that second goal in the last 4. So 1.11 is suggesting a bit of this. At least 3 or 4 goals. PSV scored 2. So they might get a look in. But the value would be in lane Bayern Munich, wouldn't it, surely? With those 3 1-0s in the last 4. Surely that's not in keeping with a 1.10 shot. that's about it, I think. Have we got any Yeah, we got the English Championship, which tends to follow suit. I've done the research for members. We've got some odds-on favourites here. Burnley have been excellent so far. Sunderland and Bristol City, Leeds and Middlesbrough. This could be a goal fest. It's another one of those top clashes. You saw Burnley versus Middlesbrough last time. That was a 1-1. We made a profit on that one. Middlesbrough might be tamed. They are full of goals. They might be tamed by this Leeds side, who are keeping clean sheets at home. So that's a fascinating fixture. Not that readable. Wayne Rooney, football genius. He should have gone into the jungle because he can't manage a football team. That's for sure. Falling apart under Wayne Rooney, football genius. Don't fancy Plymouth at all. But due deference to him, they have been slightly better at home. Let's use UK.Soccerway for a change and have a look at Plymouth, particularly at home in the Championship. So let's focus on the Championship only. Have they improved at home? Well, yes. So he's getting a bit of heat from the fans, but they are scoring and conceding at home without losing. Plymouth Argyle. So fair dues to Wayne Rooney, football genius. They are doing okay, but overall, they're on the back of heavy 10-goal defeats. Maybe like Wolves. Own goals, penalties? No, they all look to be from open play. So that is appalling. But at home, they're far, far better. But that's really going to rankle, isn't it? 12 goals conceded in the last 3 matches. Away from home, the Swans, well, they're on a run of both teams scoring in the last 4 in the Championship. But away from home, they do tend to keep things tight, don't they? Haven't conceded that second goal. And I think they might fancy themselves today, the Swans. But be warned, despite conceding 10 goals in the last 2, this Plymouth side are far better at home. In-play stats for me. All of the other matches, well, the market's telling you 2.35 the favourite, 2.2 the favourite. It's very difficult to unpack. I've done the research, as I say, for members. And I will be following tomorrow, which will be today, if you're watching the video, on the 10th. Champions League, as ever, we've got to use in-play stats. It's very, very difficult to unpack. But there looks to be some real obvious players. Salzburg, trouble scoring. Leipzig could be very vulnerable if they keep conceding goals. Aston Villa on a run of tight matches in the Champions League. So they're unlikely to let Leipzig get away from them. Other matches, well, these just high-profile clashes are very difficult to unpack. Liverpool's break at the weekend, I think, has them in clear advantage here as well. Celtic might surprise, as they have been doing recently. They've really impressed me in the Champions League. Again, we can just confirm that I'm not dreaming. I think they've been putting together a really good fist of it in this competition, considering they're coming from the SPL, which just lacks any competitive edge at all. Apart from that loss to Dortmund, of course, keeping Atalanta quiet is something they can do against DZ, I would suggest. Both teams scoring. Possibility of Dinamo Zagreb score first, that they might be vulnerable. I wouldn't take that Slovan Bratislava win seriously at all. That's what they're expected to do. But at home, Monaco 2-2 was very interesting indeed. They did take the lead, but they might be vulnerable again. If they lead 2-0, you might see Celtic competitive. I will see members of Football Trading Profits on Telegram. Oh no, West Ham have scored to make it 2-1. Now, Wolverhampton Wanderers do have 2 goals in them, so we will see at 1.17 whether that presents a little bit of value in laying West Ham. They don't tend to top off at more than 2 goals, do they? West Ham, Wolverhampton Wanderers, as I've said in the preview video, have 2 goals in the locker. So ignore those 8 goals conceded in the last 2, because 5 of them were either penalties or own goals. They do have 2 goals. They've been scoring 2 goals regularly prior to that Everton defeat. They actually scored 2 against Bournemouth, as you can see. Well, there's possibilities here that West Ham could be vulnerable late on. Those odds are very, very short enough to lay. Have a great day. I will see members of Football Trading Profits at 5:45, working ourselves into the 7:45s as well. It's going to be a day of in-play stats, I'm afraid. Apart from the starred matches, which are the matches that for me are readable pre-match. Do we have any Sheffield United? I think they might be playing today. Burnley were very impressive against Middlesbrough, so I would expect a little bit more against Derby County, with Derby County likely to be down the lower echelons there in 16th place. Very impressive draw against Middlesbrough. We called that at half-time, made a very decent profit at half-time as well. So that's a standout for me. As far as readability is concerned, this is too big a clash, really, for me to have a strong angle in. But Leeds United full of goals, Middlesbrough full of goals, Leeds United full of clean sheets, and Middlesbrough full of clean sheets. Before I go, let's just indulge ourselves with a soccer stats look at one of the bigger matches in the Championship tomorrow, or today if you're watching on the 10th. So I've got another round of golf tomorrow. I'm sorry, it's after my 4 pars and a birdie. I've got to go out again, I'm afraid, now that Storm Darren, or whatever his name is, has disappeared. Challenge table will be the first look. Probably going to be a top 5 clash or something like that. Indeed it is. It's a top 5 clash. And the 2 matches where Leeds underperformed against 3rd and 7th were 1 goal in it matches. A good 2-0 win against the Blades. That is laying down a marker because the Blades tend to keep clean sheets. Middlesbrough away are a little wobbly against the top 7. Where's that 2-goal haul that we've been seeing from them very recently? It's put into a little bit of context now, isn't it? 3 there, 6 there, 5 there, 4 there, 3 there. But where on earth are those when they're playing the big guns? It's all a little quiet, isn't it? So Middlesbrough, like they were against Burnley, might be vulnerable of scoring first. Leeds United might be able to keep them quiet. Leeds have not conceded a second goal. Well, only once. But generally speaking, not conceded that second goal. I'm generally speaking keeping clean sheets as well. Well, against 14th and lower, yes, but they have conceded against 3rd and 7th. I think Middlesbrough are layable if leading. But as ever, the in-play stats in matches like this are going to be far more important and more accurate than any pre-match preamble. Have a great day. I'll see members at 5:45 and I will regale you if I get a load of pars and birdies. If I'm quiet about the golf later on, then obviously it's been a bit down at the golf course. Have a great day. See you at 5:45.